Good morning, Olivia. This is Fancy, and you've made really great progress with your design and your chart and your scale. The scale and chart both look good, and your design is coming along as well. You've got large areas of water, um, and you have areas, plenty of areas of fire. So you have kind of fire all along here and here. Here, of course. A little bit more there, here, and kind of in here as well. So what I think is that you don't need as much fire as what you have. Um, so you can kind of continue this gradation maybe up in here. So maybe you don't need the perceptual opposites next to each other all the way along here, perhaps. So you can kind of let some of these boundaries soften out a little bit more. So you could bring this gradation of this these middle steps in the blue um, up in here. So you can kind of, so you see how you're using these steps that are closer to this to the stimulus color here. You could just kind of continue these, kind of stop the gradation with those steps and kind of fill in here and here, I think. Um, I think this shape here is the most characteristic one. These curvilinear shapes are really, really nice. But then you have some shapes that are a little bit different and they don't unify well. So this is particularly nice. You have this kind of these nice curved linear shapes here, and I know that the opposite of this, if we're looking at the blue, we see these curved linear shapes. If we're looking at the orange, then we see kind of this more pointy shape. But we do have really a nice curvilinear line here. If you kind of, that one's not so bad. It's not as prominent as, say, this one here. So what I'm trying to say is I kind of like you to stick to these nice round shapes um, as you're kind of introducing um, like different shapes into the design. So here, for example, you would want to get rid of that. It's kind of too pointy, and this one is too squared off. But this works well. And these little ones here, so you see the orange, kind of like a little bracket. That's not distracting. But you know, this larger one is, and this larger one is. Um, and these kind of round off nicely here. Why not, you know, the same kind of thing here or here? And then also you've used your gradation pretty nice and consistent all throughout, but there are some areas like here that kind of need to be refined. And you might just kind of let this blue be more of the water rather than more of the chromatic or the stimulus color or the chromatic color. So just kind of let this gradation um, go toward more of these middle steps right in this area. So I'd fill in those water steps right all the way in through here, and then let it nicely gradate to this chromatic or more chromatic color here. This shape here, so I'm looking more at you've got plenty of fire, you've got plenty of water, so maybe kind of lessen the water and then work on unifying the shapes more. And this one is kind of an odd shape too that you've started. So kind of refining this area here where the chromatic blues and the chromatic oranges meet. I see. As far as balance, um, you know, we think about darker values toward the bottom, lighter values toward the top, but you kind of got a nice balance. I think if you fill this more in with chromatic grays, it might feel a little bit lighter than this large area up here. It depends on how you kind of soften this boundary. So you might consider, you know, flipping it 180 after you kind of soften up the shape here. Flip your composition 180 degrees and see if it balances is better. All right, great start, more than a great start. I look forward to your second iteration.